Hey, and welcome again to another edition of the Digital Plantation podcast. Remember, the internet is just one big digital plantation. Whether you like it or not, it's just one big plantation. I'm your host, Dwayne, and thanks again for joining us. Remember, you can catch all the episodes of Digital Plantation right here on YouTube. We have a whole section right on the front page of our YouTube channel page where you can catch all the episodes there. You can also catch all the episodes on our SoundCloud page. That's right. We have our own SoundCloud page. Just do a search on SoundCloud.com and then look for Journeyman and Woman. And there you will find a whole library of all kinds of audios, not just Digital Plantation, but many, many other audios and podcasts that we have done in the past and are still doing. And there's still so many more I need to add there. So check us out when you get a chance here. And again, thank you so much for tuning in today. All right. So today we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to talk about two things. One, we're going to look at this whole thing. You know, this thing I've been noticing for some time on social media, period, and it has to do with weight. OK, and we're going to talk about how this new trend, when I say new, I would say new in the last, about maybe 10 years or so, maybe even less than that, and the damage that it's ultimately doing. Later on, we're going to talk about a topic that, quite frankly, I see that many of the main talkers, and I'm particularly talking about black talkers out here, are simply avoiding. And when it does come up, it's something that we are so quick to make excuses. We'll deflect. We'll find some rationalization for it, but it is something that will not go away. Even with all of our deflections, it's not going away, and so it's something that we need to talk about. And so we're going to talk about that just a little bit, because I don't know how. I have no way. I don't think we're going to be able to solve everything in one podcast for real. So anyway, let's get down to it. I was looking. Let me tell you about something I saw on social media. Then I'm gonna go to this article that I saw on Daily Mail. Then we're going to go into it. Okay. So I'm on social media. I was on TikTok, I believe. I'm scrolling and I came across this one video. It was a sizable woman. Let's just put it that way. Quite sizable. All right. Not in personality either. I ain't talking about that. Okay. And she's sizable. I mean, I wouldn't think nothing of it, except for the fact she was wearing a string bikini. I mean, if she could have got away with 2 Band-Aids and a cork, she would have done it. I mean, that's how stringy it was. So you can only imagine you're dealing with this woman just by sight only. If I had to guess, she was probably about 400 plus pounds. And she was doing like this, I don't know. It was like she was dancing salsa with her husband, I believe, or significant other or whatever. And, she's doing all this stuff and it looks like she's having the time of her life and all of that. And it's like, okay, cool. And just kept right on scrolling. But then I had to go back again because I kept looking. I just could not. Was like, wow, this is really something. Then I was looking at the comments and just noticing how a lot of people were very positive and saying, you go, girl, and you live your life and all of this other stuff. Okay. We all love seeing people happy, right? So this is not raining. This is not telling people not to be happy. Okay. I don't care if you're skinny. I don't care if you're big. I don't care if you're in between or whatever. We do need to have some happiness in our lives. So nobody's saying don't be happy. Okay. So let's just take that off of the table. Okay. But I want to pivot for a moment. Then I'm going to come back to that story, to another story that's related. Okay. This was in the Daily Mail. And I'll just read some of it for you. Okay. And it says plus size influencer. And this is not the same person. This is somebody else. Plus size influencer demands FAA and airlines to give, in their words, fat flyers as many free seats as they need to spread themselves out, and admits other passengers may have to foot the bill. And it goes on, it says, Jalen Cheney, a travel and lifestyle creator based in Vancouver, is demanding the FAA to protect plus-size travelers and make it more comfortable. She suggested airlines provide bigger seats on an extra free seat to cover or an extra free seat to cover larger passengers and refunds for passengers who purchased 2 seats. Shaney admitted she did not know who would fund the cost of the suggestions, but believed the changes were worth it. All right. And then the article goes on from there. So I'm scrolling through the article right now, and yeah, she's sizable. Okay. I'll just put it that way. And so what she's calling for now is that, the airlines needs to do something to make her feel more comfortable. Okay. So let me go back to, kind of what I was saying earlier, the thoughts that came to my mind when I was looking at that article. The social media post. And so what I'm noticing, like between this article and what I was started talking about, is this trend. And I'm saying new. It's not really new. I mean, it's been around for some time. Okay, we all understand and know that, people to some degree, we've grown up in a society where people who are sizable, they are ridiculed a lot of times. They're the butt of every joke, a lot of jokes and all kinds of stuff. So we understand that. And so what's been happening over the past, 10 years, decade or so, is now we're starting to see these people turn these things that have been the point of ridicule in their life and try to pivot it and make it a point of their strength. It's their thing. You know what I'm saying? And it's their secret power. So turning a point in a part of your life that you used to be embarrassed about, now it's something you flaunt, and we see that in many other areas, but particularly in the area of people who are sizable. When we, now we are in a society, I grew up in a society where someone like a Lizzo, when I was younger, she would not have made it in the music industry, period. They would have laughed her out of the stage. I don't care how talented she was as a female. It would not have, a young female, she would not be, it would not be, she would not be getting the attention that she's getting right now. Now, yeah, I mean, you do have, if you go back, there were black singers, female singers who were, a little bit on the heavy side, but not like a Lizzo, not like that, but now we're starting to see that this whole thing, like if someone is sizable, it's something that, girl, or whoever, even if it's a man, more so for women though, I think. It's something where it's like, you need to celebrate for who you are. This is an accomplishment. This is your thing and all of that. You are beautiful. You are beautiful. Don't listen to anybody else out here, right? And so you got all of these people out here saying you're beautiful, but the same voices that are saying there are in the gym every other day, right? But they don't want to say that part. But anyway, what I'm noticing that's dangerous about this is that when you listen to people who are that go to the gym, right? I don't care if they're the gym rats, or people who just go to gym every day or every other day or twice a week or whatever, or maybe you just run or you just walk every day or whatever. I'm talking about people who are, who are actively making a difference in their health in terms of exercise. That's the people I'm talking about. When you talk to these people, especially the ones that were sizable at one time, the one thing that you'll notice when you're listening to them and you listen to their stories is that you ask, and then you get to the point where you ask them the question, okay, what was the point in your life where you said, you know what, I'm going to have to do something about this because I'm tired of being ridiculed, or I'm just tired of feeling like every time I go in a room, everyone's looking at me because I'm so big. You know what I'm saying? What was the one thing or event or whatever in your life that was the pivotal point where you said, you know what, I'm going to do something about this? And more often than not, people will point to those stories, right? Those situations. And many of those situations that they point to were things that it was uncomfortable. It was something that, it was embarrassing. Maybe, for example, you went somewhere and you're sitting in a folded chair, and while everyone else is comfortably sitting in a folded chair, you sat down on one and it broke. You know what I'm saying? Or, maybe you went to sit on a park bench or something and, it just, people start getting up. I'm just throwing out different scenarios or stories I've heard of other people Or, I've heard stories where people said they tried to get on an amusement park ride and, the person said, nah, you can't get on here because you're too big, or, we can't fit someone else in that same car with you. It's things like that may be embarrassing, and it cut you. But at the same time, it was a good thing in that it promoted you, it provoked you to do something about the situation. You understand what I'm saying? So ultimately, it turned into something good, but you had to go through that little point of embarrassment, if you will, in order to get to that point. Because if you're surrounded by people, let's say, every one of us have seen at one point or time or another, on some of these shows right now where you see people who are My Obese Life or something like that. I mean, you got people who are like 500 pounds, 600 pounds, and everyone in the house is just steadily feeding these individuals boxes of pizzas and sandwiches and Pepsis and Coca-Colas and all that stuff. So the people that's around them are all telling them nothing but, hey, you want something to eat? You understand what I'm saying? But they know once they go outside of that house and they're in the real world, they're going to get the real world feedback, if you will. And that can be quite painful for a lot of people, which I understand that. But it's that painful experience that's more often than not a very brief one, is one that makes the difference in so many people's lives and saying, you know what, that's it. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to make some changes or whatever. This trend that we're seeing right now, what people think that it's helpful and it's empowering to, you're out here and you think you're encouraging people and hey, we got to promote these people and make sure that everyone feels like they're accepted and we're accepting and we got to be loving and all of that stuff. But by doing so, what you're doing is you're eliminating the pain that's needed to get people to really start thinking like, wait a minute, I'm damaging myself by continuing to be like this. You understand what I'm saying? And so that's the part that people are missing when it comes to, this whole, attaboy culture that we have when it comes to people, particularly in situations like this. It's not sexy. This is even in our own, black culture, if you will. The big thing right now is, and it's been for a while now. Traditionally, our women, just like our men, we tend to be a little more, like the old folks used to say, big boned. Okay. I don't know where that came from, but big boned. I'll just put it that way, right? Especially for our women, and like I said, our brothers too, but our women. And so, but we have taken it now where it's almost animated, where you got women now that are getting these butt injections and breast enhancements and all this other stuff, to the point where it's now, it may be appealing to someone's eye, but health wise, it's dangerous, and then you got folks out here saying, yeah, girl, you look good. But health wise, is it good? Is it a good health decision? Are you thinking longevity, or are you just trying to get likes? And that's the problem that we have, is that we live in a society where everyone wants to be accepted. Everyone wants to be a part of the group hug, but at the end of the day, it's doing more damage than good. So, so the moral of all of this, I guess, in everything I just said here, is that it's so important, family, for us to be truth tellers, especially number one, to ourselves. I know it's uncomfortable a lot of times when you do get negative feedback on certain things, maybe it's something you said, or, maybe it's how you dress. Shoot, my daughter, for example, will tell you straight up, if I'm, like, Dad, no, you don't want to wear that. Now that's a simple thing. That's not, with weight, but she will tell me, she'll be honest. No, you may not want to wear that. Or she'll say, you know what, that looks good. That kind of thing. To something a little more, that's a little more serious, not just clothes, but maybe something like weight, for example. We do need to be, as a people, we're known to be truth tellers. And I think it's time for us to get back to that point where we're starting to tell the truth to each other when it comes to this, in love, of course, but nonetheless in, telling, staying in truth and being honest, because when we're not being honest, family, literally there are lives that are being lost because of likes and nobody wants to be offended. We can't live like that, family. Well, anyway, you're listening to the Digital Plantation podcast. I'll be right back after this message. Don't go away. If you're like me, I always like a little pepper on my bacon. Now, this is beef bacon. I don't do the pork. But I couldn't just reach for any pepper. I had to go with our 50-50 pepper. 50% pepper, 50% black seed. That means I'm getting all the peppery taste of both, plus the numerous health benefits of black seed. It's like supercharged pepper. And the taste, bruh. You're going to have to find out for yourself. Get your dash today at sombertree.com. All right, we're back. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Digital Plantation. So glad that you guys are here. And remember, like I said, again, you can catch all the previous episodes of the Digital Plantation podcast right here on YouTube and also on SoundCloud. On SoundCloud.com, do a search for Journeyman and Woman. You can catch us all the latest podcasts and audios that we've uploaded in the past and still are. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, so we're going to get on back here. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about is this whole situation, that is going on. It seems like it's kind of increasing. And it's this whole topic, and usually that happens, especially when the warmer months. But, it just seems like it's getting a little different now. It's starting to hit different. I mean, kind of physically and literally, or, it's really starting to look a little bit more intense now. And we all are, many of us right now are talking about the young man who who went to the door, of a house to pick up his twin siblings. And unfortunately, he went to the wrong house. And there's this old white man that basically just, for whatever dumb reason, pulled out his gun and shot this young man, 16 years old, and shot him twice in the chest, I believe, and in the head or something. Fortunately, he's alive for now. So I'm very grateful for that. So, listening to the media right now, the media is all over this story. And I was just telling my wife, I said, listen, there are young black men and women that are being shot and murdered every day. And media don't talk about them. But when the media does pick a story that they're going to promote, is usually one that you got to be very careful of, meaning that not that the story is not legitimate, but the media, number one, has already well established that they do not love black people at all. And we're just in this never ending cycle, believing and hoping and wishing that somehow that the media does love us. It never does. When they do cover a story, is always an agenda behind it. And what are the agendas behind this? Well, right now we got this whole anti-gun thing that's going on right now. So that could be a possibility, and it could be some other things as well. But I just want to establish that anytime, I don't care what, anytime that the mainstream media, or even Hollywood folks, get behind a story that involves our children, in harm's way, make no mistake about it. They're not doing it out of love for you or me. They're doing that because there's another agenda attached to it. All you're going to do is tune into the 6 o'clock news in your area, and you will find that there are many cases like this that happen quite often all throughout America. And most stories like that do not get picked up at all. Right. So anyway, with that being said, there are this is a conversation that, like I said, there's no in the world we're going to be able to solve this, if you will, in this one podcast. But I will say this is something that I get frustrated when it is brought up. There's always a lot of pushback and a lot of deflection. And we got to stop doing that, because by doing that, again, it's going back to what I was just saying in the previous segment. When just because you ignore something, it doesn't mean it's going to go away. And what I'm talking about is this whole uptick in violence, especially like this mob violence that we're seeing. Recently in Chicago, there was, I don't know, many of you may have seen it, maybe not sure. But in Chicago, yes, we're talking about Chicago. There was a huge mob of many children, many youths. Many of them were black. Not all of them were black. Okay, but many of them were. That just was rampaging through the streets, just tearing down, jumping on top of cars, I saw footage of them on top of buses. They were going through stores, rummaging through stores and all of that. And, it's just was a hot mess. And it's quite embarrassing to see that. And I think I have a video here, or audio, I should say, of the mayor. Now, this is the mayor when he was when he wasn't mayor, he was city council. Let me see if I can pull that up here right quick. Let me see. I thought I had it up here. That's why you hear me kind of figure it out. Okay. So I want you to hear, how these powers that, like, I categorize them, powers that shouldn't be, what their take is on the violence, if you will, that's taking place in Chicago in this particular case. Okay. So let me play this audio.
Because that's how they can eat?
The real answer is, how do we make sure, the question is, how do we make sure that people can eat? Look, no one is going to condone, behavior that quite frankly speaks to a level of desperation.
So you're not condoning looting?
I'm saying that people are acting out of desperation. We don't want a society that is acting out of desperation, but you have to pay attention to the cries that people have.
So you're not condoning looting?
There's no way to embrace that. What I'm saying is, you can't condone the looting that corporations continue to do every single day when they take tax dollars from black, brown, white folks all over the city of Chicago so that they can turn a profit.
Okay, so he was at that time Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson. He's now mayor of Chicago. And so, but this is his take on when it comes to the looting, the massive looting and stuff that takes place periodically in Chicago, where you have businesses that are just saying, you know what, enough is enough. We up out of here. Same thing that's happening in places like San Francisco and many other cities where, businesses are just saying enough is enough. I know in Philadelphia, the city near us, right on it was on Market Street, my bad. On Market Street, right across from, the Hard Rock Cafe. Right across from Hard Rock Cafe, there was a Wawa there that they built. It was a nice one. And, I would go in there every now and then if I needed to go in there. And then one day I was walking past and I was like, wait a minute, because you're so used to the landmarks, when you're walking down the street. I said, where did the Wawa go? I said, don't tell me they closed it up. And sure enough, they closed it up. And it was because of the widespread looting that they kept going through over and over and over and over again. And so here you have an elected official, black man, not necessarily coming out and saying this is wrong, but he wants to pivot the situation. Well, you can't come down on them if you're not going to come down on the corporations, on the businesses that loot people every day. So in other words, it comes down to, because white people do it, we should be okay at doing it too. Don't come down on us, come down on them, and then we'll figure it out. But the problem is we never there's not, and you have pockets of people who want to, quote unquote, figure it out and to solve it. But there's so much energy and resources put towards the political realm, because we're not dealing with a political issue here. We're dealing with an issue that starts at home. You understand? And that's where it's, as soon as you mention home, a lot of people get triggered when you start bringing it up. Because why? Because now it's something that, wait a minute, you mean we got to solve this? Yeah, we do. So here's another audio that I have here. This was trying to see who this is. This is another I'll just say another representative of the city. He's at a press conference, and maybe it'll show me in a moment here. But I want you to listen to his take again. Now, to set this up here, Walmart has just announced that they're pulling out, at the time of this, what you're hearing right now, they have announced they're pulling out 4 of their stores out of Chicago. All right. And because of it's just too much looting. And I even read where Walmart said for years, we have not even been making a profit at all in the city because of so much looting. So instead of addressing the issue of the looters, this is Chicago's black leadership. This is how they respond to that.
Walmart, you should be absolutely ashamed of yourselves. You are the reason that our communities lack the investment that they have. We should not have to go out of our communities to find jobs. We should not have to go out of our communities to get medicine. We should not go out of our communities to be able to shop. We should be able to do all of this in our community.
Right here.
We deserve to be able to shop,
yes, sir.
work,
Yes.
play
Yes.
in our own community.
All right. So you listen to what he's saying. So he's bringing all the smoke to Walmart and saying, shame on you, Walmart, for pulling out because we deserve you to be here. Like it's almost, it's an entitlement, basically. It's, hey, Walmart, you are supposed to be here to take care of us because otherwise it's going to be an inconvenience. Now, is he bringing that same smoke to the people who pretty much made it hostile for a business like Walmart to conduct business in that environment? You understand? Now, again, I'm not a pro-corporate, pro-corporation person in the sense of these big businesses. And I'm not sitting up here and saying they're all clean cut and they don't do anything wrong. No, and not at all. If you've listened to me at any length of time, you know that, we've always talked about how these corporations and how they move and operate and all of that stuff. We get that. But on a more practical level, on a very basic level, the truth of the matter is that our people really had a hand in this situation as far as pushing out these businesses. And this is something that, unfortunately, many of our people, a lot of these talkers that are out here on social media, they won't touch on that. But they'll get on the story about the young man that got shot by the white person. Oh, we'll jump on that all day. But when it's something pertaining to us and something we're doing, that all of a sudden it becomes a very hard conversation to have. And then all of a sudden people start wanting to label you as your Uncle Tom, you this, that, or whatever. No, we just tired of the brokenness and we want to see a solution. Now, this you're about to listen to, this is a cop. She's a cop in Chicago. And it's a 3-minute clip. I know we're going a little bit longer than we normally do, but I think this is a very important topic here. Both of them are. And I want you to listen to what she has to say on this, her take on this. I think she's cursing a little bit on here, but she's frustrated and we get it. So let's take a listen to what she has to say.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. This is not a funny TikTok. This is some serious shit. So listen up, okay? So any of you that don't know, the Walmart on 83rd and Stewart in Chicago is officially closing as of May 15th. That's only like 2.5 weeks away. Okay? That's only 2.5 weeks away. So what really saddens me about this is that this Walmart was built in a predominantly black neighborhood. This is probably about the only major resources as far as like shopping and access to groceries and access to pharmacy within a 10 block, maybe even a 10-mile radius. And what's really sad to me is how us black folks, we done stole and robbed ourselves out of a fucking resource that even the elderly people of this community would not even be able to have access to. I'm ashamed and I'm saddened because black folks, we are so quick to always say, well, this person is not doing this and the white man this and the white man that. We blame everybody else for our shit. But then when we are tapped out of resources in our own community, we don't ever want to look at ourselves and point the finger back at ourselves and say, okay, I think maybe we fucked up. Maybe we shouldn't have been going in there stealing TVs and going in there stealing electronics and all this other shit. Because one thing about these white folks and these major corporations, they're all about money. So they don't care nothing about making sure we have resources in our neighborhoods. And this is how they gentrify our neighborhoods. Because when you're taking and you're stealing and you're burning down and destructing your own community, this gives them the opportunity to come into our communities and take the shit and build what they want. So because this Walmart is going to be an empty building, don't be surprised when they throw a Whole Foods over here, and then next thing you know, all of these apartments and all of these housings, I guess, for people that need to be able to afford housing, all this shit is going to start dissipating. We need to do better. I could just imagine all the elderly people that had to get their medicine and medication from the pharmacy department here can no longer have access to that after May 15th. And what's even more sad, all the Walmart workers here, honest black folk that got up every day to come here and make an earnest living, after like mid-August, Walmart is going to cut them off their fucking payroll and they will no longer have a job. They got to find a Walmart to rehouse themselves because corporate is not going to fucking do it. So you took jobs out of the black community and you took resources from everybody here that really needed it.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. I mean, what else can be said there? What else can be said there? You know, you got folks down there that are taking TVs, but then you have other people, you know, whites and others, they're taking blocks. So you got folks running in these Walmarts and running in these stores, snatching up TVs and snatching up DVDs and snatching up all this stuff. Meanwhile, they're just saying, okay, let it play out. And then pretty soon we'll be able to buy that, all of that property for pennies on the dollar. And then we're going to convert this whole place, you know, and then now you have gentrification. And then here comes the documentaries, white people coming in and taking all of our stuff, you know, and now that comes in. Well, how did it get to that point? What started that? Now, am I suggesting or saying that, you know, poverty doesn't play a role in this? It does to a measure, but not poverty of lack of finances. The poverty starts with the mindset. And this is another thing we're going to have to, you know, we want to talk about cancel culture. Let's cancel this mindset that's being put out here that says that because someone is poor or they don't have financial resources, that somehow they're just going to just snap and just go in and start killing and shooting somebody. Our history as black people in this country, we grew up in, many of us came out of very impoverished situations. I'm talking about our people as a collective, especially slavery. I mean, you can't get any more impoverished than that. But we didn't come out of slavery thieves and robbers and murderers and stuff like that. Some of the cleanest homes, and this is true, you can go back, some of the cleanest homes in the South wasn't just the white homes, but it was also the black homes too. See, we don't think about that. Those white homes, those massive plantation homes, guess who was cleaning those? White people, black people. And then those same cleaners, which were black people, they would go back to their houses. And in many cases, their homes were clean too. Black folks. We don't think like that. Do you understand what I'm saying? We don't, our history, when we're talking about, when we're remembering history, we don't think that. So somehow, because of that, we allow these great thinkers, quote unquote, to sit up here and tell us that because someone is poor, that they're just going to do these things. That's not true. So what you're hearing from this individual here is someone who is clearly on the street. She's a cop in Chicago, and she's pointing out the economic impact that this is going to have on the community. She also pointed out how you got you had the workers who were going there, who were showing up for work, who were doing an honest day's labor there and all of that. Now you got 4 Walmarts that are going to shut down now because, because of the foolishness of many coming from many of our people. And now you got unemployment has just gone up by that much in that community. And when you start dealing with people who are elderly, who are getting their pharmaceuticals, from, I may have my feelings about pharmaceuticals, period. But what I do understand is, for people, if that's all they can, they know you got to start from somewhere. So, you don't just, anyway, I don't want to get too far in that. But my point is that for elderly who were getting their pharmaceuticals and their medicines and stuff like that, now they're going to have to go even further out in order to get those things so that they can live a somewhat of a whole life, somewhat, but again, our contribution to the problem is something that we as a people are going to need to be brave enough to not just sit up here and run our mouths and talk about, but it's something that we're going to have to really roll our sleeves up and become brave enough to deal with. Everyone wants to be brave about being overweight, being brave about your sexual preference. We're being brave about all of these things that are out here. I'm brave because I got one arm shorter than the other. I'm being brave because I prefer, reading the little children and sexualizing children. All of that is a sign of bravery. But when it comes to being brave about addressing the foolishness that we are contributing to our own communities, all of a sudden that whole brave talk goes out of the window. You notice that? Well, we're going to need to have some braver people that's going to step to the plate and really address this. And don't look at, even though you're listening to me right now, but I encourage you, don't listen to me per se. Listen to me, but it has to be something that starts with you. In other words, don't look to me to be a leader in the sense of, well, when he tells us to do something, we'll do it. I'm putting out suggestions. For those that know me and what we do put out on social media, we're about that life. We're about addressing real world problems tangibly. But my point is, you be a leader where you are as well. Don't just wait for someone to kind of yank you out of your chair, out of your house, and make you do things. No, this has got to be something where you are truly at the point of, what? I'm fed up. We got to do something about this. You understand what I'm saying? Because if we don't, family, we are fading our own self away. Our culture, our dignity, our pride as a people, we are literally fading ourselves away if we don't stand up to be true and honest truth tellers in this generation. Because they're going to need it, family. Because if they don't do it, who else is going to do it? The cops will. They'll be very honest with you. And their honesty will be reading your Miranda rights and throwing you behind in the jail. But we don't need that. It starts with us, family. Well, again, thank you so much for tuning in to Digital Plantation. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you again soon.